Resident Evil 5.
Audio descriptions brought to you by Capcom since 1996. Resident-vania.
Expect the unexpected.
That explains why your AI partner is crap.
We knew this mission wouldn't be a cakewalk.
And we sent only you two because the forte of our other agents lies in traffic coordination. Capcom implements popular concepts as an attempt to nostalgia pander. Trivial Pursuit, the video game. To survive this.
Fine, but I lost most of my gear.
How? Did they fall into a pocket dimension on the way down? Apparently Wesker is a conduit now. Game expects you to believe that Wesker survived from falling off a cliff, and later on he'll survive falling out of an airplane. Resident Evil in broad daylight, because sunburn is a terrifying biohazard. This is a giant crow driving a jeep. Store names and poster boards in English, because a nation without English is a nation without order.
More and more I find myself wondering if it's all worth fighting for.
If you stop stopping murders, the murderers will not stop stopping murdering. Special agents lose sight of civilians by the dozens. Magic Kevlar prevents bullets from finding their target. That or the convenient writing.
You should do what you came here to do and go home.
Yeah, they really roll out the red carpet for us Americans.
Our protagonist, ladies and gentlemen, vain and racist patriot. Chris and Sheva will watch things like this happen again and again, forcing you to vacate the neurons in your head time and again.
Up on Daddy!
This guy has the most convenient eyesight in the history of Majini kind. Also look up the word Majini in Swahili and then you'll understand why that's racist. Unnecessary diversity. And for added effect has no real bearing on the plot. Just a random white woman in Africa. The only natural response when Capcom forces you to be a part of a game like this. I honestly don't understand if Sheva is supposed to be the worst partner ever, or that Capcom is making a statement.
Our transportation has been taken out too.
What transportation? Did someone break your legs? The fuck?
Ever get the feeling you're expendable?
Agents of the BSAA don't recognize the corollary of their chosen profession. Plagas infections give you the skills of professional vehicle stuntmen. Graffiti in English, because a nation without English is a nation without order. I think we did that joke already. Whatever. Here's a hungry teenager.
No, it's coming out, it's coming out. It's coming out, it's coming out. A couple more kicks should do it, wait. Ah.
Capcom has a Resident Evil checklist of concepts, which include but aren't limited to chainsaws, crows, and incoherent action scenes. And then the motorcycle struck Chris and Sheva, thus ending the game. What do you mean it doesn't? You're friggin' lying!
Thanks, Josh. I owe you one.
Chris comes across the only BSAA member with a, you guessed it, English name. Couldn't it just Google male African names and just pick one?
This picture, it's...
The plot. In case you forgot this game had one.
So you must be Irving.
Wow, perceptive, aren't ya?
Irving is not the dominant villain in this game.
You think this is a joke?
Yes, the crow is a terrible lookout but an excellent escape artist. This commerce road is a dead end, and that may or may not have been inspired by R.L. Stine.
It's too heavy for you. Let me give you a hand.
Well, if it was a boulder, I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue. Resident Evil 5's cutscenes from a C-class action movie then decides to become a parody of itself in 2012. Trajectory of this ramp is rather amusing, as should be the result. This might come as a surprise, but 40-foot tall giants are incapable of sneaking around. Also, this militia vehicle is catapulted from the right, but in the following shots, Nadesu steps on this BSAA waffle from the opposite side. Instead of pursuing mass terror and carnage, Nadesu spends precious seconds auditioning for the Metro Goldwyn Mayer logo.
I can't just turn my back and walk away.
Sure about this? A second ago you were ready to cut and run.
Even Chris recognized how useless Sheva is.
There are no more orders from here on in. It's just us.
So basically, they gave a great big screw you to HQ and went on with their own agendas. This will have no repercussions in future Resident Evil games. Chris and Sheva went to the android factory of 2B and 9S'ing because since when do human beings require sleep? Josh can identify Sheva and Chris as clear as day from this angle, but feels the need to make unnecessary drama as flamboyant as possible.
How did you get here?
We were at the port when we were attacked. And then, well, I ended up here.
He ends up a lot of places in this game because plot. This floor can be easily reached by a simple piggybacking maneuver. Most elevators require various keys to access restricted floors, but Josh needed to beat the first 3 levels of Pac-Man to gain access. And then they make it to another security system that requires you to lose at Mrs. Monopoly to the nearest female.
Those two are just in time for the fireworks show.
Wesker really is just wasted in this game. Discount Dead Space tentacles. A strong, independent woman can do anything, including outrunning a man in her high heels. I take it back. It's definitely a D-class action movie. Centuries-old underground city has 2-man rule control mechanisms. for their elevators.
And now Ouroboros is complete.
I'll take worse partners and bad hairstyles for 500. Ancient African sunbeams. Another easily scalable door reduced to a retrieve and secure jigsaw game, just like the Crystal Maze show. Ancient African laser beams. It's like they're just stockpiling BOWs that we've seen before to get a positive response out of old fans. The only thing positive here is the use of steroids.
Although, weren't you two given orders to retreat?
No.
Where is Jill?
Jill? Even if I did know, you think I would tell you?
Cut the crap. Tell me where she is.
This continues for some time. Resident Evil 5 Modern Warfare.
Clean handle, Albert. I'm looking forward to it.
Albert.
Wow, this is the most convenient circumstances known to man providing exposition.
Damn it, where is Jill?
Jill? Maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I won't.
Skip.
We'll never win like this. Time to change tactics.
We should hide!
There's no point in hiding.
Don't do this, Jill! I don't want to hurt you! Jill, what are you doing? Stop this! Jill, answer me!
Chris attempts to save Jill by repeatedly telling her to control herself, like she's throwing dishes at him for cheating on her.
Don't you trust your partner?
Jill used confusion. Chris became confused. He hurt himself in his confusion. Unfortunately, it's Jill who fainted.
Hey, can't you hear me? Are you alright?
And suddenly there was Josh. Josh completely drops his pants. Guard when approaching Jill.
I'm here for you if you need to talk to Irving, man.
DLC is one massively failed pickup line. DLC is also contractually obligated to suppress extra plot development and therefore accomplishes nothing.
Damn it!
The door locking mechanisms are controlled from the bridge, and Wesker is only alerted later of Kristen Sheva's arrival. This is some grade A bull.
She's tough. I'll give her that much.
I think the word you're looking for is fired. 12 degrees what? Celsius? Fahrenheit? Kelvin?
6 billion cries of agony will burn a new balance.
Sorry, Wesker, but not on my watch!
Chris forgot that only Wesker has the microphone.
Albert! You said we change this world together!
And then everyone forgot that only Wesker has the microphone.
Soon, even you will understand, Chris. One glimpse of my new world, and it will all make perfect sense. Unfortunately, it's too late for you. You will not live to see the dawn.
Thus invalidating my previous statement, making this monologue entirely pointless.
Albert!
This is one of those thoughts that should refuse to be part of the script. Satellite laser convenience and will inconveniently never be used again. Wesker could have taken off at this point, but decides to do whatever this is.
Bomber equipped with missiles. He can't fly around in that without getting shot down. Oh god.
Exactly. The plane can't get shot down. If it does, it'll initiate a biohazard.
But will become an isolated incident. Therefore, Wesker's plan will fail. Shoot up the cockpit when you get aboard. Chris looks like a complete dunce, reinforcing the stereotype that buff guys are idiots. Wesker's strength changes so frequently in this game that he might as well be a heartbeat monitor. It's surprising Chris has any teeth left at all.
The entire world will be infected.
Chris is dead. Wesker man, executing a failing plan. And this is why I don't sing. Serum goes flying in this scene, but somehow Chris magically has it here. Everyone survives this. You might be wondering, is it possible for Chris to be in this volcano? Let me put it this way.
His evisceration is imminent!
Let's talk about Wesker's plan. He wants to spread Ouroboros so only a select few of the populace properly bond with the virus and evolve. Every other life form will turn into mutated worm monsters. But now what? Rebuild? First he has to eliminate all the worm drakes unless somehow everything infected with the virus will coincide. Then try to establish order under his rule, which might prove difficult if someone challenges him. Not to mention the catastrophic effects on agriculture, water, and even air. Making drastic changes to the ecosystem and then assuming that everything will function in harmony is extremely presumptuous. And what about the serum that stabilizes the virus? There isn't an indefinite supply, meaning he'll need to cultivate more. That requires scientists, facilities, and time. At least his plan follows through on the Doomsday Prophecy. Chris makes more moves towards this boulder than towards Jill. Lava, which Ouroboros is acutely weak to, doesn't immediately disintegrate Wesker.
More and more, I find myself wondering if it's all worth fighting for. For a future without fear?
Chris makes references to the two-legged giraffe and its armless caretaker.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Chris takes an entire mission to answer a simple question, thus enforcing the idea that buff guys are... forget it. Resident Evil 5 is a fairly fun experience when playing with a partner. However, the single-player campaign is atrocious since the AI companion is not at all programmed to function with the player, and you will often find yourself dying over and over due to its inadequacies. The only other notable problem aside from this is the major one. This game does not feel at all like a Resident Evil game. It's basically a refined gameplay experiment from the 4th installment with a complete loss of any horror-related elements. It is by no means an unfun mess of a game, but it certainly is not a great Resident Evil game.